Time and perspective will always show you that on the journey, that this journey has provided us with so many beautiful moments and changed our lives for the better for so many ways. I think being born into a fight for your life situation, although horrific, I think shows you what humans are truly capable of. For 137 days, Giselle and I watched Carter battle so many setbacks and somehow continue just to get stronger. So this is what we basically lived in for 137 days. On day 5 of his life, everything was going honestly as good as you could hope. His breathing tube had just been removed, which at that point was a miracle. But he ultimately ended up having a perforation in his intestine and having to have surgery. Now, I don't know how familiar any of you are with NICUs and premature babies, but when you're born that early, your lungs aren't fully developed. You obviously have a lot of respiratory issues. And so Carter ended up with BPD and CLD, which are lung diseases. And he would have Brady events, which basically when you stop breathing and your heart rate just drops to basically nothing. Would happen constantly. When all those machines would beep, it would be the scariest thing ever. Also, when you have to be intubated that long with oxygen support, it can cause something called ROP, which basically can lead to being blind. 2 months after this journey started, it was truly day after Thanksgiving, and it was our absolute worst day there, Black Friday. Carter had a clot in his liver, was diagnosed with CMV, which is a virus that, among other things, can cause you to go deaf, and also had a horrible reaction to the 2-month vaccines. A couple weeks after that, because of the ROP that I just mentioned, he ended up having to have shots in his eyes to try to ultimately save his retinas from detaching and him going blind. Carter battled so much in the NICU, even just learning how to eat and breathe on his own. And it ultimately took my wife, Giselle, staying there 24/7 the last 10 days, sleeping for maybe 2 hours on a recliner for the doctors to get to a point where they felt he was okay to be discharged. And so ultimately, on February 10th, 2022, the 3 of us finally got to go home. I think, honestly, the grit and determination that I witnessed from Carter and Giselle in this journey is honestly nothing short of miraculous and just inspiring. And although it wasn't smooth sailing, we had checkups with more doctors than I knew existed. Carter continued to just defy the odds. I think to this day, he battles everything. that little guy, even if it's just a diaper change, absolutely fights you. And it's the best thing ever. I think things like this obviously change you forever. I think it's challenges like this and challenges he faced, while I'll continue to remind him daily that he's a miracle, and that in 2 years, he's been through more than most have in a lifetime. And for that, I know he's destined for great things. Sorry, I'm gonna pause for a minute. I have a separate section to get into, but I'm gonna pause for a minute.
Hey Gotham, that was amazing. Thank you for sharing. Tear-jerking and heart-wrenching for sure, but awesome strength you guys all showed, and proud of you all. It's quite the journey, and that's got to be a hard story to tell time after time. I'm sure it never gets easier.
I wonder if it ever is going to get easier. It seems to actually just get worse.
Yeah. I would imagine.
Even though I know the end now, which at this point is as good as we could hope for.
Yeah, I wonder too if it gets a little bit harder because you're able to attach so much more meaning to it, and you as a family have grown so passionate about tying meaning and moving forward. I think that passion is passion, right? It comes out in this emotion.
For sure. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not very good at checking this, but if things do pop up in the chat or something, feel free to let me know and I can pause. But basically, I'm just going to get into post NICU days. After that, I think that taught me a lot. A lot has changed since then, and it's really what set us on our path. So, I mean, as you can imagine, that situation, and still does, it took its toll on Giselle and I. And we did everything we could just to survive and be there for Carter every way we possibly could. It broke us down in more ways than I knew possible. And mentally, I couldn't handle the stress and anxiety day in and day out. When I wasn't holding Carter or helping with his care every day, I was working at home and in the hospital just to keep my mind busy. When I was home at night, I turned to smoking weed every day just to quiet my mind, be able to eat something, and eventually get to sleep. It's a terrible reality that I'm not proud of, but in the moment, it felt like all I could do. But after watching Carter battle like this and witnessing what I thought to be impossible when I first heard the news back in September of 2021, I knew something had to change the minute he got home. At this point, I was a shell of myself, but I knew I owed it to Carter and to Giselle to be the best dad I could be after everything we'd just been through. And so I set out to change. Carter's situation showed me that no matter what you think in life, control is ultimately a fallacy. But there are things you can control: your mindset, commitment, discipline, etc. And ultimately, if you focus on what you can control, you have the power to change and create the story in life that you want. I had a newfound why and purpose bigger than myself that I was now working towards. And now the starting point, I was down over 20 pounds after we left the NICU. But to get my mind right, I began to work out again immediately, because that's always what I go back to in order to center myself. Now, I think, like many of you know, unfortunately, change is hard. And I also fell back into the trap of diving full steam ahead into work. Looking back now, I know it's because my identity was wrapped up in my accomplishments there, the title I had, the money I made. But I began to realize that the more I accomplished and the more I made, it just felt more empty. I knew something had to change So I finally sat down and looked internally to answer the questions of what's important to me and how do I become a better role model and dad for Carter. Ultimately, I came across the question of whose story am I living and how did I end up on the path that I'm currently on? So this got me reflecting back to high school and how I grew up, and I realized accounting, which was my career, doesn't excite me. My whole life growing up, I was told, go to college, get a job, save for retirement, and move up in your career. And that's exactly what I was doing. Now, I don't blame anyone for this. It was common in the era I grew up in, but it didn't bring me joy or fulfillment. I didn't feel like I could authentically be me in my career. I don't relate to any of the people I work with. And I was honestly on a path that I hated, where I felt like it was slowly killing me each day, rather than me experiencing all of the beauty life has to offer. And now more than ever, I saw how precious life was. This was very tough to realize since my entire identity had been wrapped up in who I was and how I performed at work for so long. But I finally realized that I had the ability to change that story. So like most of us, I didn't know where to start to change my patterns and behaviors, but I started to try some new things and ultimately stumbled into running a little bit in September of 2022, which I still look back on and laugh because prior to this, I absolutely hated running my entire life. In December of 2022, All Day Running Company announced that it was created, and they announced a Clearwater Marathon. And since I had followed Jesse Itzler for such a long time, and it was in my backyard, I signed up for the half marathon. Now at this point, a half marathon is something I never thought I would do, and I set a goal to achieve it in 2 hours. I figured it was a great way to challenge myself, go and meet new people, meet someone that inspired me for so long, and just be around like-minded people who are looking to grow and better themselves. And this one very small action, unexpectedly, was the one thing that changed everything for me and set me on the path that I'm on now. I can still remember coming around the last turn of the half marathon, looking up at the clock and seeing 1 hour and 55 minutes. Before that point, I had never ran more than 9 miles in my life. And I still remember getting to mile 9 in that half marathon, straight up the bridge, which for most of you guys in Denver doesn't even count as a hill. My legs were dead. I had a lot of doubts come across me. And I just kept telling myself the whole time, I didn't run 9 miles just to run 9 miles. And now I had finally achieved that goal. Coming around that turn, I was proud of myself. It was the best I had felt about an achievement in a really long time. And my mind immediately wondered, what else could I do? I think when you try and complete something that is hard, that you never thought you could or would do, it changes your beliefs and your perspectives. Doing hard things, as we all know, builds confidence and belief internally that you can do more. I think smashing that one limiting belief set me on a path to uncover where else I had been limiting myself. So 2023 basically became the year of reinvention for me. Meeting new people, challenging my beliefs, trying new things. And so the next thing I invested in myself was All Day's Hell on the Hill event in May of 2023, which is ultimately where I gained the clarity and vision for my life that has pulled me ever since. I think occasionally you hear someone say something that just hits you the right way at the right time. And for me, that was Devin, his speech the first day at Hell on the Hill. He basically said, live life for a living and let work and everything else fill in the gaps. I just thought, what a concept. For so long, I had let work control me, my time and my decisions, but no longer was I going to do that. We had a meditative session that day that for me was transformative. For about 30 minutes, I had all of my worries disappear. I was finally able to let go of work and all of the small things I always stress and just remember what was important to me and in my life, which was my family and creating the memories and experiences that we've always dreamed of now rather than waiting until someday, like a lot of us always do. Throughout 2023, to this point, like I said, I just been investing myself in trying to help others by asking them difficult questions, the same questions that I had been asking myself since I was looking for answers. I was able to help some of them gain clarity on their vision, and what was important to them, prioritize life and experiences like I had been doing. And multiple times I just kept hearing, you could be coaching people on this. And so it finally clicked for me. I realized that the last 2+ years, I had worked through so much to understand where I was, what was important to me, what my values were, and where I wanted to go. And I had a framework built out that worked for me. And I figured if it worked for me, it could work for others as well. So I got home and got to work. I created a plan and a vision for my life, took action with that newfound confidence and belief that I could make this work. I continued networking with people I met at all-day events, fellow coaches, and people that inspired me by what they were doing. And ultimately got certified as a master life coach focused on purpose, happiness, mindset, and goal setting. I completely shifted and was all in on impacting and helping others live a more fulfilling life, focusing on what was important to them, and continued to lean into that because I saw how much of an impact it had made on me in a very short time. I was able to let go of things at work, which I always struggled to do, delegated more to free myself up, to spend time helping others level up, and allowed me to build out my dreams. Ultimately, I had an idea because of my accounting job of creating a leadership and team building company where we would do immersive experiences, challenging teams and organizations by doing hard things, pushing through limiting beliefs, and helping people become the best version of themselves. Eventually, that vision turned into partnering with Matt Scaletti, who spoke here a few weeks ago, on Savage Venture Camp and creating a corporate side of that to combine his motivational keynote speaking and Savage Venture Camp idea with my coaching and idea to impact as many people as we could. And I think the big thing here is that one little action, signing up for the half marathon, led me to proving I was capable of more, and it helped me continue to lean into the uncomfortable. I had never started a business before, never posted on social media. I didn't, and honestly, frankly, still don't know how to market. I'd never provided coaching services in a formalized setting, but I never let that stop me, and I still don't. I now have a deep ingrained why into the life I am trying to build to allow my family and I to experience the life we envision. We're trying to make an impact on as many people as possible by helping them smash their limiting beliefs and become the best version of themselves. And ultimately, I think help people realize that with the right systems in place, they can live life on their terms now rather than waiting for that one day. I think bringing it back to Carter, this is also a way of me being the best role model I can be for him by going after my dreams. Even if that means leaving multiple six figures and stability for something that's fulfilling and gives me purpose, because you'll never regret a chance you take on yourself. And that's one thing I always want him to know. I think with kids, things are caught and not taught. So I think the best way that you can show them to chase their dreams is to ultimately lead by example and do it yourself. Now, if you told me in the beginning of 2023 where I'd be right now in January 2024, I would have said you're crazy because of the limits that I had placed on myself. But doing that one hard thing built confidence and fulfillment in myself that I didn't previously have, and it just took off from there. I have since ran my first marathon, ultra marathon at Running Man, where I met Mandy, created my coaching business and coached my first 5 clients, and partnered with Scaletti on Savage Venture Camp. I continue to just prioritize investing in myself mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually by saying yes to experiences, trips, and things that I know I'll always remember and be proud of, and saying no to more distractions that don't get me closer to my goals. Now, I say all of this to show you that no matter where you are in life, whether 2023 was a good year or not, you have the power to change your story, and it all starts with one uncomfortable action. I think if you focus on what you can control, reflect on what's important to you and what you want your life to look like, that vision and the why behind it can pull you to some amazing things in just a year's time. It's not about what you do one day, rather it's about what you can do on a consistent basis that will compound into make amazing results over the long term. I think continuing to push through, especially on days when you don't want to, by remembering that why, will ultimately build that grit. And the more you do hard things, the more confidence and belief in yourself you have. I think you can make 2024 the year that changes everything for you and your family. So I think as we close out today, just like to remember, like my son Carter, circumstances are sometimes out of your control, but those setbacks don't have to stop you. I think when you focus on what you can control and how quickly you can get back up after getting knocked down, you can accomplish some amazing things. I think the only limitations that we ultimately have are the ones we place on ourselves. And hopefully, this is just a small reminder that we're capable of whatever we set our mind to.